Well, welcome to another jam-packed edition of the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast, 32 teams in 32 days segment. I am your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the beautiful and summery-like confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. You can check the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast not only here on YouTube, but on Substack, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Patreon, Trovo, and as well as on Podbean. Don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Thanks. Happy to be here on this beautiful July 11th, 2025. Hope you guys are enjoying the summer and enjoying your day. This episode, again, will be dedicated to 32 teams in 32 days segment. We'll be recovering and going over the offseason outlook and projections for the New York Jets and the Carolina Panthers, both teams who kind of are going in different directions, but maybe going in the same direction. We'll dive into the details and see. But before we do, we always have to make sure we give a couple shout outs to a couple of our friends of the show. First and foremost, want to make sure we give a shout out to the best gaming platform, network, company in the world, that is Sony PlayStation. Been an avid gamer since 1996. I've had it all, whether it's Madden, Call of Duty, whatever it is that is out there for Sony PlayStation. I've played it, God of War, just whatever. I love it. I implore you guys to check it out. Within the description box, there'll be a link within this video. I implore you to check for PlayStation Direct. If you need new system, equipment, controllers, accessories, whatever it is that you're looking for, I implore you to check it out. Sony PlayStation, more than a game. Looking to get out this weekend, looking to take your spouse out, have a great time with some friends, then look no further than the #1 leading ticket seller and reseller in the world, StubHub. #1 seller in the world for live events, tickets, shows, and concerts, StubHub. All right, guys, hopping into this episode, like I said, 32 teams in 32 days. We're going to start off with the New York Jets, who picked 6th in this past year's NFL draft. I mean, you don't really understand how incompetent a team could be until you just look at the past 10 to 15 years of the New York Jets. And you understand that how bad a franchise can be, not only just dysfunctional, but just so incompetent that they get in their own way consistently. Did not have the year that they thought they were going to have. They had Aaron Rodgers healthy for a predominant part of the season. It just didn't work out. The offense didn't really play up to snuff. Running game was inconsistent. Offensive line was even worse than inconsistent. Whatever adjective you want to place it put in part of, worse than inconsistent. They were that. I mean, just bad. I mean, they played good down the stretch of the season, but as you can see here on the screen, didn't really have a good grade for the year. Ultimately, just shitty football. Ended up 5-12, third in the AFC East. And just really played the most inept, incompetent, dumbass football at times throughout the year that you could possibly play, whether it's mismanagement with the clock, whether it was Aaron not trusting, his body the way he once did, or trying to overcompensate and do things he couldn't do anymore. Alan Lazard getting the ball and not should have been receiving the ball in those moments, getting Devontae Adams late and, using him, it was just dysfunction and a fucking mess. Whether it was the Hassan Reddick situation, it was just messy for the Jets and just never really got on firm footing or firm ground. And ultimately led to the departure of Robert Saleh, who was fired by Woody Johnson, mid-season. Just, again, bad situation for the Jets. Definitely was a season they didn't want to remember. But now they have an old face in a new place. They have now Aaronglenn there, former cornerback Aaronglenn now is the new coach of the New York Jets. Which I think if you're the Jets, you got to be happy. This guy was one of the pillar, key players for your franchise early, from the mid to late 90s. Cares about the franchise, cares about the organization. Was the first team organization that gave him a chance, so his heart is definitely here. He has a new vision, him as long as well with GM Darren Mui. It just seems like they got a new plan, a new vision. However, with management being in place, Woody Johnson, is it the same old? Because it's something that you do have to consider. They've had different coaches. They've had different iterations of the Jets. The ownership is still the same. So ultimately, that seems to be the most common denominator. But just looking at it from a 35,000-foot view, ownership and competency aside, your quarterback situation just wasn't up to snuff last year. Now, Aaron Rodgers did play better as the season progressed. He did get better late. But clearly, aaronglenn and Darren Mooney were definitely looking to go forward in a different direction. They didn't really even want Aaron Rodgers back. We're very happy they didn't come back. They kind of kicked them out the door, for lack of better words. Brought in Justin Fields, who we all thought would have been back in Pittsburgh as a starter, but because Pittsburgh wanted to lowball him, he went on to New York. They eventually swapped quarterbacks. They got Aaron Rodgers. Now Justin Fields in New York. Kind of crazy how the situation worked out. These two will actually be playing each other week 1, which is even more insane. I think it's the first time in NFL history that's ever happened. So that's going to be great to see too. But make no mistake, they had bigger issues than just that. The few things that I mentioned. I mean, you had Garrett Wilson, having issues with Aaron down the stretch, wanting a contract extension, having issues, worried about that. You have Breece Hall, starting running back, worried about a contract extension. So you got guys worried about money, guys that's playing well, trying to be leaders for the team, house burning around them, and they're essentially trying to cling on to things to, survive. It's just a bad situation in New York. They're trying to build a new culture now, new day, new light with aaronglenn. And like I said, GM Darren Mooney, but the defense needs to be better if they're going to really make that leap. Looking at the statistics from last year, you have points scored 24th, which is obviously not great. You were 24th in yards, which definitely isn't good, and 16th in passing yards, which means you were middle of the pack. Again, Aaron Rodgers early in the year didn't really look like himself, looked like a guy who didn't trust his body, didn't trust the footing he had, and it showed. It showed. They just couldn't really sustain anything, and then the rushing attack was even worse. I mean, you got Breece Hall and you had Braylon Allen. These guys, you think about it. Breece Hall gave you 800 some odd yards last year. Braylon Allen was a competent backup running back, gadget guy where you could put him in the slot and run, pass plays, have him run the ball. Solid player. They just didn't even, it just seemed like they didn't even attempt. They were 32nd in attempts and 31st in yards. So it just seemed like to me, it was the Aaron Rodgers show. It doesn't seem like that they were really relying on any type of running game. They were really just hoping for Aaron to throw them to victory, which was by far a shitty game plan for a 40-year-old quarterback, which, again, leads to the dysfunction and just compounds and exacerbates further why this team is as bad as they are. It's just the Jets being the Jets. Like I said, defensively, there were some bright spots. 20th in points, 3rd in yards. You were also 4th in passing yards, which again is outstanding. 17th in rushing yards, so not really great there. You were definitely giving up yards, which if you're giving up yards, you're going to lose. They play like a middle of the pack defense. They had some bright spots, but I ultimately feel like the Jets defense, if they play outstanding to the level that people have bragged about and potentially talked about for them for the past 2 or 3 years, I think this team has a legitimate chance to really make some damage in the AFC. Especially in that fringe wild card area. Keep in mind, you're going to run the ball a lot with Justin Fields. He hasn't really developed into the passer yet. He can throw the ball, but he hasn't really developed into the passer that you kind of would have hoped he would have been. However, with this offense, and I think with this iteration, this scheme and system they're going to be running, I do think that the running game is going to be prominent. So I definitely expect Breece Hall and Braylon Allen to definitely get some more touches. And it just, again, it seems like the team's had a bunch of young playmakers, young skill guys. They've just been waiting to be coached right and waiting for that quarterback to come in there and step up. So hopefully Justin Fields has definitely answered the bell for him in that regard and ready to take the mantle. Getting Armand Membu in the draft tackle out of Missouri was major. Their offensive line has been in flux. It's been a fucking carousel, for lack of better words. They got rid of Mekhi Becton, clearly labeled him a bust. Gets to Philadelphia, has one of the best seasons of his life, wins the Super Bowl. So clearly showed that coaching matters. He wasn't being coached up right. He's not a left tackle. He's a guard. And he just went on to the Chargers and secured the bag there. So be that as it may, the O-line carousel continues for the New York Jets. This is just going to be one of those situations where the Jets are really going to have to kind of hope that Justin Fields is the guy Because if Justin Fields is the guy, they got a team that could potentially win, I would easily say 7 to 9 games. Now, again, they've been hovering around 7 to 9 games past few years. They won 5, obviously, a year ago. Could have won more. They won 7, I think, the year previous to that, with Aaron Rodgers getting injured and having Zach Wilson being in there. But I would say 7 to 9 wins is honest projection. Because if you don't get the play out of Justin Fields that you're expecting, if he's inconsistent, you'll hover around 6, 7 wins. If you get the play out of him that you're hoping that he does, he takes this leadership mantle and really, grabs the bull by the horns, then you're possibly talking about possibly making the playoffs. Because I do think that if Justin Fields plays well, this defense will play competently enough to where they'll be able to sneak up on some teams and beat them and crush them. Because make no mistake, they have the playmakers, they have the pieces. That's why the Hassan Reddick move last year didn't make so much sense, because he was a luxury. He wasn't really a necessity for them. So it's going to be interesting for the Jets, but for those Jets, like I said, 7 to 9 wins, I think it's best case projection. Maybe fringe wild card, maybe fringe playoff, I don't know, but that's best case scenario. And on now to those Carolina Panthers, who, listen, we're talking about the top of the draft. You're obviously talking about some of the worst teams in football. You're talking about some incompetent football, incompetent decisions being made. Needless to say, the Panthers are right there. I mean, they're probably top 3 as far as incompetency. Ownership group, Dave Tepper really doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, clearly. Doesn't have patience. Could be rumors. There's some rumors abound that maybe his patience is running thin with this current iteration of the Panthers, and he needs to see some results right away before he can feel confident going forward. I would possibly say the same about him, but nonetheless, he's owner of the team, and he has decisions he has to make. The question for them is, will more progress be made, or will a slide back into mediocrity be the thing for the Panthers? And adjacent to that, has Dave Tepper's patience run out, or will it run thin with this team? Because they just really haven't had the pieces really to be an elite team. And it kind of seems like that Dave Tepper was kind of expecting them to take a huge leap last year that I don't think anybody in their right mind really saw, that if they knew anything about football would have surmised or assumed. So be that as it may, the Panthers, garbage franchise, horrible season last year, obviously picked 7th in the draft. They were 5-12 last season. You got Bryce Young, who didn't play well early, got benched, came back, played outstanding, played a lot better than he has within the past couple of years. Played well against some good teams, played well against Philadelphia, played well against Kansas City. A couple games that come to my mind. They played well enough in situations where you see that this guy can potentially be your leader. If you can get the ball out of his hands quickly, you can protect him, you can have a decent running game. I think you're going to be in a situation where this team could really make some way and do some damage in the NFC South, because that division is trash, and it's not like there's a juggernaut there. The Bucs are possibly the best team in that division, hands down, but even they could be beat. So, sky's the limit for the Panthers in that regard. But does Dave Canales and Bryce Young, do they finally put it together? Is there a situation where you finally see Bryce Young, and Canales connect, and they have the right team assembled? Because that ultimately has been really the problem. I don't feel the coaching's been the issue. I definitely feel quarterback play has been an issue at some points, but I feel like Bryce Young past year and a half has played better. They don't have the weapons. I mean, let's be honest, guys. He's throwing a fucking 500-year-old Adam Thielen. Xavier Leggett, who they compared to A.J. Brown, and I'm not sure if it's the body size, height, weight comparison, but, he had moments, flash, didn't really stand out too much, but, had a couple of games, nothing really too crazy. But, you really don't have playmakers run this guys. Running game-wise, outside of Chuba Hubbard, non-existent. Miles Sanders was a flop a year ago. That's why they had to get rid of him. That's why they just went after Rico Dowdle, signed Trevor Etienne. I mean, they clearly are trying to revamp this running back room. They're trying to add some juice and some lividity to it, a la what Tampa Bay has been running. So I see it. I see the template being written. But essentially, you need these playmakers to step up and grow, which leads to the next question. Can this wide receiver room grow? Obviously mentioning Xavier Leggett. You just drafted Teteroa McMillan from Arizona, obviously in the draft. Huge signing, big splash no one expected. Definitely, I think it's needed by the Panthers because their offense hasn't had juice in a while. They haven't had anybody that really creates excitement or causes teams to have to consider even possibly double teaming anyone. And then obviously you signed veteran wide receiver Hunter Renfrow in free agency. So definitely made some moves, Carolina, where you're clearly trying to revamp the running back room, revamp the wide receiver room, give Bryce Young enough weapons to make sound, smart, quick decisions with the football. Because when he does have the time and he can make quick decisions, he's lethal. So, and we've seen that even on the NFL level. This kid can definitely play. But the defense was horrible. Now, looking at, like I said, offensive rankings and defensive rankings completely. The offense essentially was better than the defense, but not by much. The defense was horrible to start the year, played better at certain points, and then finished horribly. Offensively, you're talking about a team that was 23rd in points, 29th in yards, 30th in yards passing. I mean, not good. Not good. Not passing the smell test by any stretch of the fucking imagination. Defensively, the worst team in football. They were the worst defense in football. 32nd in points, 32nd in yards, 23rd in passing yards, which again should tell you everything you need to know. However, 32nd in rushing yards, couldn't stop the run. That's essentially what get anybody killed. They got playmakers. They got guys that can make plays. They haven't really formulated it together yet. And I'm not sure that Davecanales and Bryce Young will be allowed the time, but in this case, best case scenario, we already spoke on worst case, best case scenario, this team has to make a leap. If they won 5 games last year, they have to win anywhere between 7 and 9 for the ownership group to feel like this team is really making headway, because let's be honest, if they win around 5 games again next year, that means Bryce Young is clearly not the guy. That means your team is nowhere near competent. That means the coach can't handle it. So I don't think it's anyone. I don't think it's the multitude or the amalgamation of those things. I think it's a few things. I do think Bryce Young can play. I just think that he hasn't really had the offensive line or the talent around him. I do feel like Davecanales can coach, but ultimately this team needs to make a huge leap for the ownership group and for the GM and the front office essentially themselves to feel confident in what they're looking at going forward. If they can make that leap, like I said, I believe this could be a competitive, feisty team. Playoff team, I don't know. But again, 7 and 9 wins should be the goal for them. Looking at the NFC South, NFC South, Tampa Bay is really the only real solid, consistent team. You don't know what you're getting out of Atlanta yet. Carolina themselves, what the hell, And like I said, Tampa's obviously the most complete team there. So you kind of got to know, you kind of got to look at it and know what you got in front of you for Carolina. But essentially, they can win 7 games. I think that would be a successful season for them. And that's going to do it for this episode, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Take care. And as always, be safe, stay cool, and hydrated out there. And enjoy the rest of your day. Hey to all my fans and subscribers out in the UK. Looking to get out this weekend, looking to make something of your week, then look no further than the Viagogo, the #2 leading ticket seller in the world for live events, shows, and concerts. Definitely check it out. If you're looking for exclusive tickets, look in the description of my videos on the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. Take care and enjoy your day.